So, guys, welcome. So, the algorithm that I so completely fell in love with is Hourglass, right? Hourglass, I basically use to understand the charts, understand the market, understand how to trade HFX and be a profitable trader. All right. I became a 90% trader over time, right? This is not something that you're going to be able to pick up in the next, 10 to 15 hours and become a master trader and make all types of money, right? This is something that over time you develop the skill. The mother of all skills is with repetition. So as you repeat this, as you keep hearing this, as you keep studying this, whether it's on a recorded session or whether it's you keep coming to my sessions at nighttime, you're going to learn this thing and it's going to become so simple. And my job for you is to make this as simple as possible. So today I'm going to use terminology that's not necessarily the textbook terminology, but it's going to be terminology that you're able to use and apply to simplify all the learning for you. All right. So the first thing I want to point out on the right hand side is your alert panel. All right. On Hourglass, they give you an alert panel where you will have different symbol pairs that you could trade from. All right. So if I scroll down, you'll see different symbol pairs that you could literally choose from, select from. Basically, what symbol catches your eye the most. Whenever you click, a new chart will pull up. Right. So new things will pop up on your screen as you click a symbol pair. Okay. So I want to teach you how to read this alert panel first. So make sure you guys are taking massive notes as we're going, right? The first thing I want you to look at is the symbol. Okay. So anytime you hear somebody call out a symbol, they're going to call out two currency pairs, right? And we trade binary options. So basically, you have two currency pairs put together. That's your symbol. It's kind of like your first and last name, right? My first and last name is Marcus Noel. Your symbol pairs will be your two currency pairs put together. So for example purposes, the symbol pair that I have highlighted is the Euro CAD. And that's nothing more than a euro and a Canadian dollar put together. Okay. Whether it's me, whether it's Nate Paxton, whether it's somebody on a Go Live session, you will hear them call out a symbol that they desire. All right. So they're going to say, hey, let's go in for a Euro CAD trade, or hey, let's look at USD JPY, or hey, let's look at, Euro NZD, right? They're just calling out two separate currencies that are put together that make one symbol pair, right? If you're following me, drop some 777s in the chat, okay? Now, what I love most about HFX is that you only get two options, okay? You only get two options. So it's a 50-50 chance every single time that you jump into a trade, all right? You either can press the call or the put button. Now, call means that you believe that the price is going to go up, and a put means that you believe that the price is going to go down. So when you hear somebody call out a trade and they say, hey, I want to go in on a call, they basically are indicating that they believe that price will go up from the moment that you press the call button, right? And if you hear somebody say, hey, I want to go in on a put, that means that at that moment when you press that put button, they believe that price will be below the put line, okay? So that's what I love most. It's a 50-50 shot every time you take the trade. Analysis is what allows that probability to grow higher, okay? Now here in the alert panel, I'm gonna highlight it. You'll see something called a hit level, okay? Now me personally, I don't take trades at the hit level that's provided in the alert panel, and I'm gonna show you why. But I want you to know how to read it as well, all right? Because if you just took trades that are solely put in this alert panel, you will be a 60% trader, okay? Is that good? That's not even passing in public school, 60%. Like if you went to public school, you wouldn't even be passing school, right? I want you to be an 80 to 90% trader, all right? So I'm gonna show you where I catch my hit levels at. But I want you to still be able to read this. So if you look in this alert panel, you see where it says hit level, it says a series of numbers after the decimal, all right? So it says 1.36559. The only numbers that are importance to you is the last three digits. So when somebody's calling out an area or a precise location they would like you to take the trade, they're going to call out the last three digits. So this is what it would sound like if I was calling out a trade. I would say, hey, I want to go on a Euro CAD trade. So I will say the symbol first. I will say the time that I want to go on for the trade. I will say what type of trade, whether it's a call or a put, and then I will say the exact location. Okay, so I'll say, for example purposes, 559. And what you would do is, in return, head over to your broker, go and make sure that you're at the same exact symbol pair that I'm on, that you're going to press the same exact button that I asked you to press for the same amount of time at the precise location that I gave you. Super simple. It's like follow the leader. If I tell you Simon says, you know, touch your nose, and you touch your nose, you succeed, you win the game. Same thing with HFX. Somebody's going to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and where to press it. And as long as you can follow basic and simple instructions, you can make a lot of money trading HFX. Okay. Now, this is very important. I want you to write this down on your paper. This is so important. This is like an asthma pump to asthmatic patient. All right. This is so important in this alert panel. Probably one of the most important things when trading is your currency strength meter. Okay. Now, if you see in the alert panel, Hourglass breaks it down for you. It literally breaks down the first currency and it breaks down the second currency. If you look at Euro CAD, right? The first symbol is Euro, second symbol is CAD, right? So Euro CAD together, when you break it apart, each currency has its own separate strength. Okay. And the rule is, right? I'm going to reiterate this rule maybe once or twice. Okay. So write it down. When the first currency is stronger than the second currency, you can predict that the price will go up. Again, when the first currency is stronger than the second currency, you will predict that price will go up. Now, the second rule is when the second currency is stronger than the first currency, you will predict that price will come down. Right? I reiterate that one more time. When the second currency is stronger than the first currency, you will predict that price will come down. So when I'm searching through my alert panel, I'm searching for currency pairs. And the way I'm searching for currency pairs is based on the strengths of the currencies. Now, with that rule being an important rule, when the first currency is stronger than the second, we predict it's going up. When the second is stronger than the first, we predict it's coming down. I'm looking for a drastic difference in currency strength. So for example, if you look at the Euro Chef, right? It has a strength of 44 and 48. The Euro has a strength of 44. Chef has a strength of 48. Not a drastic difference, right? So it'll kind of teeter-totter, right? Teeter-totter. I think that's the same, right? What I'm looking for is something that has a drastic difference. In this case, look at GBP odd, where it has a strength of 50 at the GBP and odd has a strength of 27. So that indicates to me, if I apply that rule, when the first currency is stronger than the second, it's indicating that the GBP is stronger than odd, which means that we could predict prices going up. So I'll click it. And then I'll go to my chart and I will look. And I will see the candlesticks are in an uptrend. All right. And we just missed a perfect trade. So we're gonna come back to this. I want you guys to remember this, screenshot this, you know, the screen in your mind. Right? Take a screenshot if you're on your phones. I want you to take a screenshot of this moment right here. This is a perfect teaching example for me. So I want you to screenshot this moment. Okay. Matter of fact, let me mark it up so I can come back to this in a second. All right. Perfect. All right, cool. So just to reiterate the alert panel one more time, you have your symbol pairs, which is your two currencies put together, right? You have your type of trades you could go in on. Either you could go in on a call or a put. A call means you predict that price is going up. A put means that you predict prices coming down, right? When somebody calls out the hit level or the location where they want you to press the call or put button, they're going to call out the last 3 digits. So for example, if you look in the alert panel, it said 530. What you would do in return is go to your broker and then look for, you know, it to align at the 530 mark, depending on where it's at. And then you want to focus on the currency strength meter. Now, the strength of the currency is basically when the first currency is stronger than the second, you can predict prices going up. And when the second currency is stronger than the first, you can predict prices going down. Guys, I want to go on the GBP all trade, all right? All right. I want y'all to put in a 3-minute trade. Anything under 467 or below 452 right now, I want to take it on a 3-minute call. So try to get through there fast. It might leave us 450 right now. That's the location. Anything under 467 is a great area, but 450 is an amazing area for a 3-minute call. So if you could jump in that call right now, that's a perfect play. 450 is the area it's in right now. GBP odd. Okay. Now, moving forward, if you understand how to read the alert panel, drop some 777s in the chat for me. Perfect, perfect, perfecto, perfecto. Right? So now, did anybody, if you got in on that trade, right? If you got in on that trade, drop some dollar signs. If you got in on that trade, that 3-minute call, drop some dollar signs, right? It came down to location again. If you got in on that trade, drop some dollar signs. I don't know if you guys are trading HFX right now. If you are, perfect. Leak is, all right, cool. Perfect. Let's move forward. All right. Now, next thing I want to teach you guys is each trade idea that you see in this alert panel, right, is going to have a lifespan of 5 minutes. Okay. So every trade that you see come in this alert panel will be in there for 5 minutes and it will completely evaporate. And then the next trade will come out. Now, how do you see how long the trader has left? There's a time clock to the left of the alert panel. I put an arrow there so you can see it, right? That time clock will dwindle down from 5 minutes to 0. It will restart. A new trade will be put in the alert panel, and then it will restart the time clock to 5 minutes. It will dwindle down to 0, restart, new trade put in the alert panel, and so on and so forth throughout your days, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. Why? For several reasons. The first reason I want you to keep that in mind is because you don't have to rush into a trade, all right? If you don't see a trade that you like, please fall back. It's okay. You don't want to rush into a trade where you know there's a trade coming out every 5 minutes. So for example, if you live in New York City, right, and there's a bus that literally comes every 5 minutes, are you going to be hauling, ASS to get to the bus, or are you going to wait for the next, bus that, maybe come in less than 5 minutes, right? You will wait. Guys, if you took that trade, you're in major profits right now, right? You're in major profits right now, right? Major profits. Over 40 pips in profits, right? So, just lost my train of thought, right? Okay, cool. So we have the time clock. Next, I want to talk about some of the indications that you see on this left side of the screen, okay? First indication I want to touch on is these red and green squiggly lines right here. Remember, I won't use the perfect terminology because I want to teach it I teach HFX for dummies, right? Call it that. Like I teach it in the slowed down version, how I would teach my 9th grade, brother, right? If you cleared that trade, drop some dollar signs in the chat. If you cleared that trade, I didn't even get a chance to jump in the trade, but I'm glad y'all made some money. So if you cleared that trade, drop some dollar signs in the chat. Perfect. That was a great trade. So the first thing I want you guys to pay attention to is these Bollinger Bands, right? Is these red and green squiggly lines, okay? Now these Bollinger Bands act as a rubber band, right? And what I mean by that, right? When you see these candlesticks, matter of fact, let me go into what the candlesticks are. So if you see these red and blue stick-like figures here that kind of look like a candlestick based on the body and the wick of the stick, right? Those are the candlestick. Now, each candlestick color basically indicates something, right? So if you see a red candlestick, that basically means that from where it opened up at, right? When the 5 minutes opened up, it went down from that spot, right? During that 5 minutes. And vice versa. If you see a blue candlestick, it means that wherever it opened up at, it went up from that spot. So the best way to remember the color of the candlesticks and the direction it went is heaven is blue, red is hell. So when you look at the candlesticks, if it's red, it went down towards hell. If it's blue, it went up towards heaven, right? Perfect way for you to remember that. Now back to the Bollinger Bands, right? Which is these red and green squiggly lines that I have the arrows pointed at, right? You're going to see the candlesticks in between those red and green squiggly lines. And the first thing you want to pay attention to is the tendencies of the candlesticks when it touches one of those lines, okay? So if you look, right, whenever a candlestick touches the line, what it does is it ricochets off that line and it goes into the next direction. So let's look at the previous actions, right? I'm going to drag my arrow so you can see what I mean, right? So here we had the candlestick touch the red Bollinger Band. What happened next? It went down towards the green. When it touched the green, what it did next? It went up towards the red. When it touched the red, what it did next? It went down towards the green. When it touched the green, what it did? It went up towards the red. When it touched the red, it went down towards the green. When it touched the green, it went up towards the red, right? You follow me? Went down towards the green, went up towards the red, went down towards the green, went up towards the red, so on and so forth. So whenever you see a candlestick, right? Whenever you see a candlestick, basically touch one of those Bollinger Bands, what you could assume will happen in the near future is that the direction of the candlesticks are going to head opposite of whatever band it touched. Okay. So if it's at the red Bollinger Bands, at some point, the directions of the candles will be in a downtrend. And vice versa. If it's at the green Bollinger Bands, at some point, the direction of the candlesticks will be in an uptrend. So you just want to take heed to that. Now, is that something that is super necessary and super important for you to, be fixated on? No. But you just want to be aware of that. At some point, those Bollinger Bands may take a part in what it is that you're doing when you're trading. Okay. Now, we have the actual arrows that are above each candlestick, right? If you look, I put an arrow there so you can see this arrow has a put arrow, right? So it's basically telling you to press the put button. Like, that's what I love about these algorithms and why I love iMastery Academy. It's because they simplify it for you. You don't have to mark up charts. You don't have to go to TradingView and start, trying to be, Fibonacci. No, you can come here, learn how to read the algorithm, take a trade a day, and go about your business. Okay. So these put arrows and call arrows will pop up under the corresponding candlestick, and it basically will tell you the direction that it predicts that it will go in. Okay. So right now you also will see a score, right? Now there's 7 indicators that you could basically go through, and what the algorithm does for you, right? So you don't have to manually do it. It does it for you. It's kind of like shifting gears, right? If there's 5 to 6 gears in your car, I never drove a manual car, right? But if there's like 5 to 6 gears, instead of you manually shifting gears to get to your destination, you could put it in automatic and drive, right? Press the gas and press the brakes, right? So basically, instead of you counting your confirmations, right, it does it for you. It gives you a score. And basically, the closer to 7, the better the trade. All right. I would say anything 4 and above, the trade is promising. Anything 3 and below, the trade is not promising. So if you've seen a score of 2, it's not necessarily promising, right? I wouldn't say that that's a great trade to go in on, right? If you are still following me, right, drop some 777s in the chat. If you have any questions, drop your question now, right? Before I move on to the next the next part. Right? So we went over the alert panel, right? We went over the time clock, right? We went over the Bollinger Bands. We went over the color of the candlesticks, right? We also went over the score. Okay. Everybody understands. Everybody understand. I need some more participation, guys. I need to make sure that everybody has understanding, right? Because if you don't have understanding, just ask your questions so your question could get answered and you get closer to understanding, right? All right, moving along. Okay. Next thing I want to show you guys is, let's see, because I don't see it here. So let's go to another currency pair real quick. All right. So right now they're still fixing Hourglass. So I ain't going to complain, right? So there's another part of my teaching that I usually transition to now, but it's not up. So I guess they kind of like still tweaking it. So I'll go into this part of the teaching. Okay. So, next, I want to talk to you about these black lines down here, right? These black lines that kind of look like a heart monitor, right? Hopefully, none of you guys' EKGs look like this, right? Because this will be a very, very bad heart right here, right? But this thing looks like a heart monitor down here, right? I'm not going to say the terminology because this is for beginners, right? I want you guys to pay attention to that. Now, when I zoom in, right, I want you to focus solely on the tip of that black line, right? Wherever the tip of that black line is pointed, it's usually where the direction of the candle is headed. All right. So right now you see it pointed downward, right? If I zoom out, you're going to see a red candlestick. All right. So the candlestick is kind of like, see how it went up, right? It started going up. Now the candlestick is blue, right? So I want you to pay attention to this thin red line. This thin black line and the tip of the black line, right? So usually wherever the tip of the black line is pointed, you could get an idea of where the candlestick is headed. Now, you're also going to see a set of red and green lines down here. Whatever this tip of this black line commits to one of those lines, right? That's really the direction it's in. So if it's above this red line, you know that it's in the up, it's going up. If it's below this green line, it's coming down. If it crosses through kind of how it did here, where it went up above it and came down, that is a great indication that it's going down. And if it crosses down and comes up like it did here, that is another great indication that it's going up, right? So you just want to pay attention to the tip of the black line. Not super important. You just want to take a glance at it, all right? I call these my blind spot indicators. And why do I call it a blind spot indicator? It's the same way the blind spots are in your car. When you're driving your car, right? And let's say you're driving at this time of night, right? There's not that much traffic on the roads at this time of night. So when you're driving, you don't necessarily have to be, going crazy looking in your blind spot all the time. But, to secure and to be as safe as possible, looking in your blind spot every time you switch a lane will be the best thing for you, right? Same thing with these indicators, right? Whenever you are trading, you want to just glance at every indication, no matter how important it is in that moment. You want to glance at it to make sure that you're going in on the right trade, okay? Now, I want to talk to you about this last part and what makes me a 90% trader, 80 to 90% trader on any given day, right? Let me put my arrows here, right? What pair was we on when I said, I think it was GBP CAD. Was it GBP CAD that I had those arrows? GBP odd. There we go, right? Okay, perfect. I want you guys to pay attention to something for me real quick. Matter of fact, let me go back to EuroCAD real quick, right? Let me show you something. Oh, I need a more visible one for you guys. Let me see, is this visible? Perfect, right? All right, I want you guys to pay attention to this real quick, right? Boom, right here and right here, right? Now I want you guys, hold on. I want you guys to write this formula down, right? Write this formula down for me. This formula this is the sauce right here. This is the secret sauce right here, right? Write this down. Support and resistance times the currency strength meter equals big clears. All right. Support and resistance times the currency strength meter equals big clears. I'll say that one more time, right? The support and resistance times the currency strength meter, it equals big clears. And this is going to click to you guys. Right now, you're going to have a wow moment, right? Like a, oh, wow. All right. So if you look, right, I zoomed in. The support and resistance is basically this thin red line right here. And this and the support and resistance is the thin red line and this thin green line above and below your candlesticks. Okay. So if you look at every single set of candlesticks, set of 6, you're going to have a ceiling and you're going to have a basement, right? That's what it works as, a ceiling and a basement, right? Write that down. The support and resistance works as a ceiling and a basement. So the same rules apply in your house or home as it does when you're trading HFX. If you threw a ball at your ceiling, drop in the chat box what you can predict will happen next. After you throw the ball at your ceiling, what can happen next, right? It will bounce off and come down. Thank you, Leak. Perfect. If you bounce the ball off the floor, what can you predict will happen next? If you bounce the ball off the floor, what can you predict will happen next? It will bounce off the floor and come back up. Perfect, right? That's what happens with your candlesticks. See, your candlesticks are in this support and resistance, which is like a ceiling in the basement, right? There's only 6 candlesticks in every single support and resistance. So if you look, right, you'll see, let's scroll, right? Here we got 1, here we got 2, here we got 3, here we got 4, here we got 5, here we got 6, right? What is going to happen now is a new support and resistance is going to be created, just like the old one did, right? Here we had 1, here we had 2, here we had 3, here we had 4, here we had 5, here we had 6. Then what happened? A new ceiling was created, and so was a new basement, right? So there's only 6 candlesticks in every single support and resistance, okay? Now, this is a big rule, right? This is a big rule when you trade at HFX. Write this down, scribble it, put it in bold letters. Do not trade the first 3 candlesticks in the set of 6. Do not trade the first 3 candlesticks in a set of 6. Do not trade the first 3 candlesticks in a set of 6. You only want to look to go in on a potential trade around the 4th candlestick, the 5th candlestick, or the 6th candlestick. Why, Marcus? Right? That's the question that you may oppose. Because the first 3 candlesticks is when the ceiling in this basement is being created. And where I take my locations on my trades are solely based on the ceiling in the basement. Why, Marcus? Because if you throw a ball at your ceiling, what can you predict will happen next? It will bounce down. If you throw a ball at the basement, what you can predict will happen next? It will pop up. So I'm waiting for my candlestick to either touch the ceiling or the basement because I know what will happen next. Right? So remember the formula I just gave you that I told you to write down before I went into the ceiling in the basement. I said the support resistance times the currency strength meter equals big clears, right? So I'm gonna go into what way this formula starts to make sense, right? So let's go to our previous thing where I told you take a snapshot. Remember it, right? I think it was GBP odd. Yes, it was, right? Perfect. So if you look at GBP odd, right, where I put these arrows at, right? At the time we had a strength, the GBP was drastically higher than the odd, right? Which means that our first currency was stronger than our second, which means that we could predict prices going up, right? So what I did was I waited for a candlestick to come to my basement so I can take the next trade up. Super simple. If the first currency is stronger than the second, which means that we can predict this price is going up. Remember, I told you this is the most important indication is the currency strength. It's like an asthma pump to asthmatic patient. So if the first one is stronger than the second, it predicts that it's going up. I'm waiting for candlesticks to come into my location. My location is always going to be either the ceiling or the basement. That is it. That is all. So here, the candlestick came below the basement. It came to the 450 area. The basement was at 467. It came down to 450 something, 451. I think you guys took the trade at. So I already knew. I used my indicators, my formula I just gave you. Okay, support and resistance. Candlestick came down to the basement, which means that I could predict that it's going to go up next. All right, the currency strength meter is in favor of a call because the first currency is stronger than the second, which is why when we took this trade at 450, how we had this massive, massive pull up. And you guys cleared without biting your nails. You cleared without sweating. You cleared without, pacing around. You cleared without the anxiety of your heart beating. You cleared. You could have closed your laptop and came back to it and you guys would have been good. Right? Because of that formula right there. Now I want to show you how it previously works, in prior times, right? Let's look, right? I use my arrows again. Here, this candlestick touched the basement, right? Let's assume that the currency strength meter stood exactly the same. This candlestick touched the basement. What happened next? Candlestick went up. All right, let's keep going. This candlestick touched the ceiling. What happened next? Candlestick went down, right? Let's keep going. This candlestick touched the basement. What happened next? Went up, right? Let's keep going. Nope, that didn't do it. This candlestick kind of touched the ceiling. What happened next? Went down, right? Let's keep looking. This candlestick touched the basement. What happened next? Went up. No, look, this candlestick touched the ceiling, then it came down, then it touched the basement, and then it went up. Then it touched the ceiling, then it went down, right? So it's inevitable. If you wait for the candlesticks to come into your location, which is either your ceiling or your basement, and the currency strength meter is in favor of the direction that you want it to go in, you clear by a landslide. You clear by a landslide, right? So again, if the formula is right, let me write something. Let me get a little fancy for y'all, right? If the candlestick touches the ceiling, it will shoot back down. If the candlestick touches the basement, it will shoot back up. So if the currency strength meter is in favor of a call, you want your candle. Right? And vice versa. Right? So if the candlestick touches the ceiling, you know that it will shoot down. If the candlestick touches the basement, you know that it will shoot up. So if currency strength meter is in favor of a call, you want to take all your trades at the basement of the support and resistance. Why? Because when the candlestick touches the basement, we already know that the rule is the next candlestick will shoot up. On top of you adding the most important confirmation, which is the strength, which will pull it up, that's how you clear by a large margin, and vice versa. If your currency strength meter is in favor of a put, which means that the second currency is stronger than the first, and the candlestick is at the ceiling, we already know the next trade will come down and it will be pulled down from the strengths of the currency. Right? So now, why did I take the 3-minute trade when this trade was still in process? Because I predicted what will happen next based off of that rule. So this trade had a lifespan of 1.5 minutes before when we took our trade. We took a 3-minute trade when this trade had 1.5 minutes left. That's my secret sauce. I always take my trades 1.5 minutes remaining on the previous candlestick. What I mean by that, we took our trade during this candlestick for this candlestick to make our trade win. So we waited till this got to 1.5 minutes to take a 3-minute trade. So literally for 1.5 minutes, it was in the area that we wanted it. So the next second half of our 1.5 minutes of our 3-minute trade, it shot up. So we took it, 3-minute trade, 1.5 minutes. It stood, it lingered down in this area it shouldn't have been in. As soon as this trade opened up, we had a new 1.5 minutes left remaining in our trade. And look at what happened. It rose to the ceiling. So while our time is elapsing, coming to an end, we're going in deep profit. Instead of you waiting the whole time, watching your trade while it goes in and out of profit, you literally give yourself only 1.5 minutes for your trade to be headed up in profit. So just in case, if it does shoot down, if it does come back down to that area, you already cleared the trade. You're already in and out because you took it predicting what will happen next based on that rule. So I like to take my 3-minute trades with 1.5 minutes in the previous candlestick, predicting where the next trade will go. If you follow me, put some 777s in the group chat. All right. So I predicted that this trade will shoot up like this based off of what it did here. This came down to the 450 area. I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. I said my first currency is drastically stronger than my second currency. This came down below the basement. I have 1.5 minutes left. If I take a 3-minute trade, what will happen is the first half of my 3-minute trade, it will be in this area. And the second half of my 3-minute trade is going to shoot to the moon because one, it's at the basement or below the basement. And two, my first currency is stronger than the second, which means price is going up. That's all it is. Now, I want you guys to look at something real quick, right? As we've been talking, right? You see how there's one big long ceiling right here, right? And there's one big long basement right here, but there's more than 6 candlesticks in between them. That's why I tell you never to take the first 3 candlesticks, because right now you don't see a new ceiling being separated, right? It's attached to each other. So some people get confused and they still think that this is the ceiling and this is the basement after the 6 candlestick finish. No, what's happening, it's creating a new one. It just hasn't broke apart from the previous one. That's why I always tell people wait to the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th candlestick till you jump in your trade. That's the discipline that you want to have when you're trading HFX. Discipline is the number one thing you want to have. So to wrap this up, I have 3 rules that you need to follow if you want to have success trading HFX. The first rule that you want to follow is you only want to risk 1 to 3% of your account. Do not over leverage. All right. You don't, if you got $100, if you got $50 in your account, don't put $25 on your first trade. Don't put $50 in your first trade, right? You want to calculate whatever 1 to 3% is, whatever you start your account with, right? Because once you over leverage, you will blow your account, right? It's happened to me many a times. It's happened to the best of the best many a times. We all got sloppy. We all got, greedy. We all over leveraged, and we all paid the price, right? So if you're not willing to lose money, if you're not willing to, potentially lose a trade and you over leverage, don't do it to yourself. 1 to 3%. Okay. The second rule is you want to look to gain about 8% every single day, right? You want to look to gain about 8% every single day, right? And I could go into the compound calculator, right? Excuse my face right there, right? Where I can show you guys what that looks like really quick, right? Right? You want to compound your account, right? You don't want to go into trying to gain massive amounts of money day one, all right? So let's say you started off with a $100 account, you look to grow by 8% for the next 90 days, right? I always believe take this thing up for 90 days and watch how far it takes you, right? We don't trade on weekends. Weekends, the market is closed, right? So if you calculate that, right, you start a $100 account today, and the next 90 days, it'll be over 100K by simply just growing by 8% a day. So day one, you want to make $8, right? Not life-changing money, but by day 90, you're starting to make about $7,000 a day. You're at that point, you're experienced, you're a master trader. Your trading account will be at 101,000, and your life looks completely different than it did 90 days prior, right? So you do not need to over leverage, and you do not need to try to super grow this account by 100%, 90%. You need to just grow by 80% a day. And the third rule is, if you lose 2 consecutive trades in a row, sit out, go study more, go learn more, and go focus on the education so you can learn from your mistakes, right? I don't believe that losses is losses. I believe that we all learn from our losses here, especially with trading, okay? So if you have any questions, drop it in the chat box right now. That is the session for today, right? As we get on, we'll start trading a lot more, right? But I wanted to teach you guys the basic principles that you need to know in order to be successful on your own, right? The point of trading, the point of iMastery Academy, the point of HFX is to be self-sufficient, all right? Learning how to do this thing on your own, so you don't need me, so you don't need an educator. You could just come to your computer anywhere in the world, as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, make some money and go about your day, all right? So do you guys have any questions really quick before I end this Zoom call? Any questions? Any questions for me? Yes, no, maybe so. So if you made some money today, drop some dollar signs in the chat box. If you learned something, right? If you learned something, put some 777s in the group chat from you guys. All right, guys, I appreciate you. We'll do this again. It'll be on the schedule, right? Look forward to it. See you guys at the top, family.